Oh my God, look at that. Zuversicht, confidence. This is our German Minister of Economic Affairs. And it's safe to say that he's a complete fail. Now he is applying for Chancellor. And yeah, you definitely need a lot of confidence to do that. But that's Germany 2025. Let's look for a quieter place. Yeah, in 2 weeks there will be elections here in Germany. We can elect a new government. Isn't that great? Especially in a situation where many people, including myself, are absolutely fed up with the current government. So, must be great, but actually I would say it isn't. And in this video I am trying to explain why that is. Now, these elections have been originally scheduled for November this year, but because the current coalition collapsed, there will be snap elections already this February, in 2 weeks. Why did the coalition collapse? I think the detailed reasons are not so interesting, but the root cause obviously is the diminishing support in the population. So isn't that great? I mean, that's democracy in action. But in reality, unfortunately, things aren't that simple. It is more complicated, and that's what I will explain in this video. As always, this is my own personal take. If you can relate to it, that's great. If not, that's fine as well. Just to provide some context, I think I should tell you a little bit about my own political views. So I am actually not too interested in politics. I have always been interested in political theories, but never cared so much about practical politics, you know. I mean, there are much more exciting things to do. And I also always thought that it doesn't affect me that much. So I could get around in all kinds of different political systems. It just doesn't affect me. Now, this changed a little bit in 2020, but that's a different topic. What are my basic political views? I am liberal. That means the state should interfere as little as possible with the lives of its citizens. That doesn't mean I'm an anarchist or something. I think the state should provide some basic needs like, you know, infrastructure, healthcare, education, law enforcement, some degree of defense, things like that. But it shouldn't do much more. To do this, the state, of course, needs funding by taxes. And I do believe that the system we have here in Germany with a progressive income tax basically makes sense. It's not great, but yeah, I don't know of a great alternative. However, there are limits. So it is definitely overdone. So when you overdo this progressive taxation, of course, the really rich people will find ways to avoid it. And on the other hand, for middle class people, it's demotivating when they have to give away more than half of their additional income to the state and health insurance and things like that. Which is, by the way, the case for me, so I am definitely not a rich guy. My income is more than average, that's right, but for every euro, for every additional euro I make, I have to give away more than half of it. Taxes also should be simple. You might have heard that Germany has one of the most complicated tax systems in the world. They should be simple and they should be neutral. So taxes, from my point of view, should be used as a funding for the state, but they should not be used to nudge people into doing things they actually don't want to do. I am mostly pro-immigration, so whoever can afford it and is ready to accept the local culture and the local laws should be able to live in Germany. What about people who cannot afford it? Of course, we should help refugees for humanitarian reasons, even if they cannot afford to make a living in this country. But the goal should always be that at some point in time they should be able to make a living on their own. By the way, I do think that under some conditions multicultural societies can work, and actually we did have some quite successful immigration waves here in Germany in the past, but what is happening during the past 10 to 15 years just doesn't work out. I also think that we should get much better at taking care of our environment. And this is not only about climate change, there are many more aspects. But yes, I do think that we should, or would be a good thing if we would reduce CO2 emissions, factory farmings and things like that. So this view is actually quite aligned with what our current government says, but unfortunately all the measures they are taking, they are proposing, I don't think they have any positive net effect. I think that when you look at it globally, many of the actions they propose will have a negative effect in the long run and actually delay the development of more sustainable economies. Finally, and that's an important one, I think that military conflicts should be avoided and stopped at almost all cost. We currently have a war in Europe, and all our government is doing is to provide more weapons for the country that has been attacked, Ukraine. And yes, of course, the war has been caused by, let's say, an aggressive, psycho Russian leader. It's true, absolutely true, it's his fault. But that is only part of the truth. So our allies have been trying to weaken the economy and the whole country of Russia for decades. And you can say that they have been testing out how far they can go. And that is probably not the best way to deal with a psycho-aggressive political leader with nukes. Okay, let's talk about the current government. It's a coalition of the Green Party, the environmentalists, that is, the Social Democrats, and the party, a smaller one, which calls itself the Liberals. So, sounds great. I mean, I said, for me, environment is important. I am liberal and I am for basic social care. But unfortunately, the truth is that this government is neither green, nor is it social, nor is it liberal. Not at all. I have to say that a long time ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, I used to vote for the Green Party, normally, and sometimes also for the Social Democrats. Maybe I was a little bit more naive at that time, but on the other hand, I really think that in the past, at least, the Social Democrats were actually quite a decent party. Not great, not absolutely aligned with my views, but not as bad as they are now. Well, what actually did they do during the past 3.5 years? Well, they have damaged our economy, they have damaged our reputation in most other countries of the world. They have made the living conditions for most citizens worse. So we have inflation, we have increase of taxes, all things like that. And they didn't even really do something effective about the environment, not even concerning climate change. I should add that the groundwork for all these bad things has actually already been laid by the previous government, the government of Angela Merkel, and her politics actually isn't that different, hasn't been that different from what is happening now. It just escalated a bit with the current government. And maybe one of the reasons is that Angela Merkel actually was very good at one specific thing. She was really good at doing nothing. And in many cases, this is actually the best option in politics. Independently from specific political views, there are two things that make all of the current mainstream parties, whether they are in the government or in the opposition, absolutely unacceptable for me. And these two things are: one, propaganda, and two, lack of vision. Let me explain. The thing is that all of these parties seem to be fine with propaganda. It's okay for them to do propaganda, at least if it's their own propaganda, not that of some other party. So the problem with that is that Germans, and especially the people from the western part of Germany, are quite bad at recognizing propaganda. So I think one of the reasons is that we had a very good system of public media for a long time. So the public television and radio especially, they are in some way, they are independent officially, but they are in a way state-founded. And for a long time, this actually worked really good, really well. I would say in the 1980s, 1990s and early 2000s. In these media, they presented a wide variety of different views. News were presented in an objective way, so it worked really good. But somehow this changed gradually during the past years. And I have to say that by now these public television and radio stations have transformed into full-blown propaganda outlets. It took me a long while to recognize this, and there is one specific thing that helped me, and that is, interestingly, the fact that I spend a lot of time in Hungary. Now in Hungary there is Viktor Orbán, a right-wing populist, so to say, who has mostly taken over control of all the media, all the larger media in this country. And I have been watching this for years. I'm still very annoyed by the Hungarian media. And yeah, then suddenly I noticed, let me go back a bit. So for a long time I thought this could never happen in Germany. And then, probably in 2020, I just noticed that German media used exactly the same methods, completely different direction of course, but the same propaganda methods as Viktor Orbán's controlled media. So things like leaving out context, repeating things over and over that fit into the narrative, ignoring things that don't fit. What else? Demonizing the enemies. All of these things. So all of this happened in almost exactly the same way in Germany, and it was especially noticeable during the pandemic years. I don't accept propaganda as a legitimate tool. It is absolutely anti-democratic. It destroys democracy and other things, and this is why I am not going to vote for any of these parties. I would just feel extremely bad if I did that. The other thing I cannot forgive is, let me call it, lack of perspective or lack of vision. Now again, it started with Angela Merkel, and there was one famous claim of her. I don't know exactly when she said that, but she said, "We have to tighten our belts." Maybe you remember. And well, not really a positive thing to say, but it has been going on. So what you hear quite often nowadays are things like, we have to prepare for war, we have to prepare for the next pandemic, things like that, and many other things. But they do not really give any positive suggestions, whatever, for the future. And I think this has a devastating effect on the motivation of people, especially young people. And I don't know, I think Germany is the only country in the world where politicians like that do not get kicked out immediately. I don't get it. So let's talk about some of the political parties. Interestingly, the Christian Democrats, the former party of Angela Merkel, are quite strong right now. So with about 30% of the votes, they are the strongest party currently, and they will probably provide the next chancellor. Friedrich Merz is the name of that guy, and the reason is, I don't understand that reason, but for some reason many people think that he can fix our economy. I don't know why they get this idea. Of course, he's talking a lot about things like that, but I cannot imagine that he will actually do something that makes sense. By the way, he was, I think, the German CEO of BlackRock previously. I don't really have anything against BlackRock. They are a company that has a lot of power, that's right. But okay, it's fine that companies like this exist to me. But maybe it is not the best thing to to make this guy the Chancellor of Germany or any other country, because of course he still has contacts with a lot of his buddies, his former business partners, and I'm quite sure that this will definitely influence his politics. But people say he will fix our economy. Okay, what other parties are there? There is the Left Party. So not the Social Democrats, but the Left Party, which is, well, in parts I would say it is far left. It had, I don't know, maybe 7% or something like that during the last elections in 2021. Now they are much weaker, and that is because part of it, including their most popular politician, have left the party and founded their own party. One of the, I would say, so-called alternative parties, the BSW, Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht. I will come back a bit later to that party. But the rest of this left party will probably not get more than 5%. And they will probably not be in the parliament. Aside from that, they are actually not too different from all the other parties. Of course, they are more on the leftish side, but then very similar to what the Green Party and the Social Democrats say. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about this Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht. First of all, I think it's not a good thing if a party is based on the popularity of a single person. I mean, Sarah Wagenknecht, she's really, you have to say that she's a good speaker. She says a lot of things that I do agree with. But I am not sure if she is able, and maybe she is not even willing to implement these things. Especially, I share her, I don't know if it's her opinion, but at least I share most of what she's saying about the war in Ukraine. But then it's quite a left-wing party. It's definitely not liberal, so it's not really a party for me. And finally, we are getting to the most successful and also most controversial of these alternative parties, the AfD, Alternative für Deutschland. Now, this party, you probably have heard of them. Even Elon Musk has, for some reason, recommended them. They are right-wing. I actually do share, again, like with the other alternative parties, the Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, I somewhat, to a certain extent, I share their opinion, or at least what they are saying about the war in Ukraine, which is an important topic for me. But I don't share a lot of other things. They are right-wing. They have some members, even in high positions, that are obviously racist, that are anti-democratic. So when you read the manifesto of this party, you actually don't really find anything clearly racist or clearly anti-democratic, of course, because otherwise this party would have been made illegal. But they have such people, and probably quite a non-negligible number of such people. And okay, there are crazy people everywhere. I think that the Green Party, for example, also has some people which are anti-democratic. I'm quite sure, even in high positions. But same with the AfD, and racism is an absolute no-go for me. And yeah, what they don't say. They don't get rid of these people. That's a problem. I mean, probably not everyone in this party is really a racist or an anti-democrat, but they don't say, okay, you go away, we don't want to have anything to do with you. They don't clearly say that. And that's the issue, and that's the reason why I am not going, or one of the reasons why I am not going to vote for this party. I mean, the benefit, of course, would be that by voting for AfD, you would have the greatest impact on the established parties. So, the thing with all of the established parties is that they don't seem to notice that they have big issues. They are not able to learn. And what I actually want to do with my election is to somehow make them accept that they have made big mistakes and that it will cannot go on in the same way as previously for the next 4 years. So voting for this party would probably have the highest impact on all of the established parties. But as I said, I'm not going to do this for a reason I explained. What is crazy is, this AfD party. They have doubled their votes during the past 3 or 4 years. So at that point they were, I think, around 10%, and now they are above 20%. And what are the explanations? Actually, all of the established parties just ignore the elephant in the room. So it is quite clear that the number of right-wing fascists, racists or whatever has doubled during the past 4 years. But it's quite obvious that all the other parties just did an extremely bad job, and that's the only reason why the number of voters for AfD has doubled. It's so clear to me, but, well, I mean, it's actually clear to everyone, I think, but the established parties just ignore this. So, finally, let's get to the interesting question. What should I do? I have not a lot of options left. I have eliminated all of the established parties. I have eliminated the voting for the AfD. Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht may be still an option, not a good one, but maybe. Then there are lots of smaller parties. So what am I going to do? I don't know. So what are the options that are left? One option, of course, is always not to vote at all, but this is the worst option of all, I would say. You have absolutely no impact when you do that. Nobody will care. Another option, which is quite similar, is to provide an invalid vote. maybe slightly better than not voting at all, because you show that you are basically interested in voting. You are just a guy. You're not a guy that doesn't care for anything, but still, nobody will care. You will have no impact, or almost no impact. Next option would be to vote one of the smaller parties. So there are about 20 smaller parties which are available, which are allowed in this election, and none of them will get more than 5%. So 5% is what you need to get at least one seat in, or to get seats in the parliament. None of these small parties will manage to get there. I will definitely look at the small parties during the coming 2 weeks and check if maybe there are one or two which are quite aligned to my views. Maybe I will do this, but still it's not really a good option. I would really like to vote for some party that will get into the parliament that is likely to get more than 5%. But I have basically eliminated all of them. And so what I actually would like to do is to have some impact on the established parties. So the most likely thing that will turn the direction of Germany will turn Germany into a better direction is probably not that some small party suddenly appears and gets successful, and it is more likely that maybe, there's a lot of hope in this, but maybe one of the larger parties will just change their direction. And I think it's most likely that maybe the Social Democrats will manage to do this. So right now they are completely unacceptable to me, but to be honest, many years ago they were quite a decent party. Maybe a little bit too left-wing in parts, but okay. So, as I said, currently they are not acceptable, but maybe they can change, and we just have to make clear to them that it is not an option to continue the way they have made politics during the past, not only maybe 20 or 30 years. And how can we achieve this? By making them lose votes. So how can you achieve this? By voting for a party that gets more than 5%. And there is one party which I have not absolutely eliminated. I don't like this party. I don't share many of their views, although I do share some of them, and that is the BSW. As I said, I don't like the party, but it is likely at the moment that they will get more than 5%, and maybe this is a way to achieve some impact on the established parties, especially the Social Democrats. So still not a good option, and I'm not saying that I'm going to do that. Maybe it is quite likely still that I am going to vote for one of the smaller parties if I find one that is more aligned to my own points of view. But yeah, maybe I will take this choice also. I don't really like it. Okay, see you sometime, probably after the elections. And yeah, actually, this is some kind of travel vlog mostly, and I am definitely going to do some travel vlogs in the future. but I just thought I should do this video about the German 2025 elections. Okay, see you, bye bye.